No more destructible conduits. Soulbinds paths linked to your spec. More options to choose from the weekly chest, and oh my god, is Reaping coming back as the new seasonal Mythic Plus affix? Stay tuned to find out about all of these plus more in On Cooldown, the weekly wownews show that doesn't destroy when you wanna swap. What? Hello and welcome to Marcelian Online. We do class guides and a wownews show on a weekly basis, and if you're into that, hit that subscribe button and maybe throw a comment.
Because that will help us massively. And you know, it will keep you updated and we can engage in some conversation. And now, on with the show! Gather everybody for some of the biggest news to come in Shadowlands yet. Well, there's actually two major things to take in. First, the Soulbinds will not remain the same regardless of what spec you go for. No. The pathway will change every time you switch. And this is such a welcome change since we all know the pain we had with Azurite traits when switching specs, right? Well, now if you made a Soulbind load out on assassination but decide to try sub for the first time, when you switch, the Soulbind's path will be fresh and you can place it once again to your liking. Then, when you switch between the two, all the Soulbinds will be saved based on your spec. Bravo, Bliss, bravo! Now, remember the talk on conduits being destroyed when swapping between them? Sure you do. Remember that Ian said in the last interview with Preach that conduits will not remain in the same form as they are? You know, being destructible and all? Well, my friend, the conduits will not be destructible, but rather they will have their own little library for you to collect and use to your pleasure. And that is very similar to the essences, which, to be fair, you wouldn't mind that much, right? I mean, the drill is that these conduits will drop for you in almost all content of the game, and once you do get one, you take it back to your Covenant Sanctum and you add it to your collection. But as opposed to essences, the content that will provide you conduits will be much more varied because we all know how much we needed to farm. Oh, I don't know. Blood of the enemy? Well, not anymore, as if a conduit designed for AoE damage could drop from a PvP chest as well as from a raid loot table or wall quest, which is just exquisite because there really isn't any extra mega grind you need to do for these. I mean, not to the extent you had to for essences, not even by a long shot. Now, one thing that could potentially scare you about these conduits is their rankings, because it was sort of confirmed by Bliss that they will increase in power, but we really don't know how much. WoW had data mined 15 ranks, while the official Blue Post said that the power of the effects will increase with the item level of the conduit, potentially meaning that Mythic conduit drops will be the best. More clarification to be done on this side of the table for sure. Another thing that could scare you is the fact that if you lock in your conduits for a spec, well, that lock will be there for a week, meaning that if you decided to use a lot of conduits that help you survive more in PvP but do less damage, well, you are stuck for that week with that and cannot change them if you want to deal more damage in a dungeon or something. Oh, I guess you're right to think this seems like a step backward, at least when comparing it to essences, and we have to compare them because right now they kind of operate more or less in the same way. It feels counterproductive with the Soulbinds change for specs and conduit library to have you locked down for a week, but hey, maybe they will loosen the grip on this, as I'm not too sure they will completely revert it because they want to have some, quote, friction with the system. Overall though, the changes are good, and it's clear they are applying what you and I and many others are saying on forums and videos and comments, but I don't know about this lockdown, man. What do you think?
Reaping is back, but not really. But it builds a premise that I can segue from. A new affix has been data mined, and it is the Prideful affix. Currently, we only have a few tooltips to base this one on, but a few speculations can be made about it. A quick disclaimer though, there is a chance that this will be changed by the time the expansion launches. Blizz has been vocal about the testing the M+ affix seasonal one before the beta ends, and this could be the season 1 affix. There are talks and statements have been made about a change in affixes both in combinations, and we saw the volcanic change a while ago. This seems to build as you kill more shit, stacking supposedly per mob killed. It seems to last 20 seconds on you, and if that falls off, a manifestation of pride is summoned that consumes all the pride stacks on the party and gets 100% HP and 25% extra damage per stack. So think of this as a super bolster. Once you kill it, it starts a supposedly uninterruptible 4-second cast that will deal AoE shadow damage based on 100% of its max HP to everything. So both your group and the mobs around will get hit. Now that can open avenues in planning and using it on to clear trash, maybe even bosses. Sounds like this could be like the Void Emissary in Season 3, where LOSing it would negate the damage that it will deal to you, and maybe that's one way to ensure that the mobs get hit and not your party. This is one way the affix could be implemented. From Season 3 to Season 4, we noticed that Blizz has been giving us counterplay to affixes, so a kiss-curse mechanic if you will, where emissaries were just incredibly annoying and walls you had to overcome. Awakened posed a challenge that could save a bunch of time if completed, you know, killing the lieutenant. Taking Prideful into Season 1, we could be seeing something similar, where controlling the stacks and manifestations can construct routes and strategies. At least that's what I hope it will become. There's currently an inherent issue with some affixes that offer no counterplay, and as a result are not very rewarding for playing right, just obstacles to overcome. With the AoE cap in place and this affix added, it seems to be pretty clear that the trash count will go down in Shadowlands and each individual mob will reward overall more percentage. Yay! This is what could offset smaller pools that would otherwise turn into potential hour-long dungeons.
And today's comment of the day comes from Andrew Kalina, and he said,
"Can y'all give Flame some respect on that name?"
Man, I never realized that Flame wasn't in the name. Time to fix it.
With this week's new builds added to the beta, rogues have received legendaries. Kind of. Almost. Rogues are the last ones on the list, and this would end one design chapter, which is not yet over for rogues. Subtlety legendaries haven't been added as of this recording, and also no conduits whatsoever are available. The few ones that were working or available at the very least are what you would expect. Some interesting, some bland, and some again glorified trinkets. Although, and hopefully this is because they are not properly tuned, take the essence of Bloodfang as an example, where your combo point generators have a chance to inflict a bleed on the target for 6 seconds, healing you back. Sure, it's proc based, but I did play a full dungeon with it and it amounted to a whooping 4 DPS out of my total 1.2k. So yeah, glorified trinkets, not even likely. Mark of the Master Assassin is an interesting one actually, and so far the most interesting, which is the Legion Legendary Mantle of the Master Assassin. While in stealth and 5 seconds after, you have a 100% crit chance. For assassination and outlaw, this has some straightforward benefits. More damage, more combo points, the good stuff. For subtlety, which is where I tested it, has some cooler implications. First off, with the recent change to Find Weakness, you can use it in AoE with Shuriken Storm and apply a guaranteed AoE Find Weakness on everything. Or with Gloomblade in single target, which is not really necessary since Shadow Strike does that already, although there are still some combos you can dish out by creating little snapshot moments when everything has Find Weakness. And you have GCDs popped and you Shadow Dance for 100 crit uptime, woo! That is really dope. Mark of the Master Assassin is for all specs, and another general one is Tiny Toxic Blades, that buffs Shift to spread your poisons and bleeds to a nearby enemy. This can be incredibly cool and fun to use in cleave situations, especially with assassination. With Exsanguinate, it could create again some interesting snapshotting moments. On paper, because right now Rogue seems to not only be the buggiest class, but the one with the least amount of attention dedicated to it. Other legendaries increase or decrease a stat or a cooldown by a factor of 0 units of measurement, and others have little to no tooltip or actually not a working tooltip, while half of outlaw and every sub option is missing. Design is coming in a step-by-step process, that's fair, but the lack of fixes, changes, and overall design put into Rogue is a bit worrisome since we are past alpha, but Rogue doesn't feel like anything more than an alpha class. Talent missing, tooltips busted, AoE finishers doing less 5 combo point damage than your builders you use to generate said combo points. Ugh. We did get confirmation that class tuning will be about the last thing they will do on beta, but what about actual design? We have raid testing going out, but rogues have more than half their shit missing. How will this be relevant or at least consistent when it comes to balance? I guess that's why I'm not a game designer. What do you think? Comment?
Here's a bit of a nugget for you. Borathius was able to pull the UI for the Shadowlands Great Vault. You know, the one that on the weekly reset will give you all those options of gear for you to choose from. And it's interesting to see that you will be able to pick only one out of all the options available. Meaning that if you did Mythic Plus Dungeons, the Heroic Raid, and kept your PvP bar, you get to choose your reward from a pool of options containing all these types of content. So, not more gear, just more gear options. Now, before you jump on the outrage wagon, just think a bit for a second about how this seems to work. So, in BFA, you had two chests, the Mythic Plus cache and the PvP chest. Those were two options. You would still get loot drops from finishing a Mythic Plus or drops from the raid bosses. And yes, I will not add here the random drops from arenas because those were laughable at best. But nevertheless, Shadowlands adds for the first time the possibility for you to pick a piece of gear from raid, Mythic Plus, or PvP on top of your regular drops. And this is important to note because a lot of folks are up in arms on the forums and on Reddit yelling that now we only get one chest instead of two. And yes, that is true because there will be no more PvP chests. But on the other hand, you will have a PvP vendor with gear just waiting there for you to buy with honor or conquest points, currencies that you will be getting by doing PvP. Honestly, you should think about this as being just a way to give more options on your weekly chest if you decide to pursue all types of content within the game. Maybe what you could find a bit concerning is the Mythic Plus thing, where for the max rewards, you need to complete 15 Mythic Plus dungeons, which seems a bit much, but Bliss hasn't officially said anything about this since the info came out, so let's just see if they will shed some light on this. But until then, what's your thought on this? Many good changes with the latest build on the beta, and I'm super excited, man. I'm super excited. It's like, okay, there are some voices and there are some concerns, especially with the conduits lockdown. That's like, I think the biggest thing.
Yeah, I guess.
You're like, you're like locked down for a week. Although there is, let's say, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel because you can always change the actual soulbinds. You know, the guys. That would
be nice. I think they're treading on very shaky ground because they want to make the change impactful and your decision to put in a conduit feel impactful, and that has to come with a restriction. They're also trying to appease the the multi-speckers, which we are also a part of, and changing classes and stuff like that. So there probably won't be an ideal solution for everybody. So there has to be like a kind of like as close to a 50-50 compromise as we can get to, I guess.
They did a pretty good job so far on listening to a lot of the feedback and implementing it. I mean, when comparing to what happened in BFA, especially in the BFA beta, it's like 180 or 360.
The attitude.
They're implementing a lot of the feedback.
Dude, as long as I don't have to pay gold to use my system that I've unlocked for a different spec, even for the same spec.
No, the Soulbind thing. So but this is the interesting thing. So they want to lock you down for a week on conduits. But when you switch a spec, the Soulbinds, you can place the Soulbinds whatever. The Soulbinds saves with the spec.
I guess that's fine, right? Because if you play Fire Mage and you want to raid, but then you also want to do dungeons, okay, well, what is your main content? I guess it's kind of shitty that because right now in BFA we are forced to do raids, dungeons, and PvP to get all of our stuff. Maybe that's not gonna be the case in Shadowlands, and maybe that won't matter as much if you cannot bring your A game into Mythic Plus if you're a raider, for instance.
Well, I'm just saying there's gonna be a lot of voices out there who will not agree. I already seen it on the forums and on WowHead on Reddit. It's
always gonna
mess.
happen.
Yeah. But all in all, everything seems to be on a good track. Well, apart from a lot of the classes.
Respect devs.
Yeah, well, we're still waiting for more updates on Shadow Priests, on
rogues,
bro,
man.
yeah, there's also
I just heard like Mistweaver, half of Mistweaver shit isn't working either.
There's still a lot to work on that front, but so far, so good.
And, of course, everything is even better with your support, dear patrons, because if you've noticed, we've launched our super secret project, which is our podcast, and we love it. The feedback on it is amazing, and it's one of the coolest experience we had as content creators talking with people like Noble, and there's a lot upcoming. You'll see every Monday. So that, among all of our class coverages and 5 streams per week, is what you will be supporting, dear Patreon.
Yeah, so remember the super secret project, it's not secret anymore, it's the MoCast podcast. You'll be able to find it on Spotify as well, right? There's gonna be links in the description and all of that. And hopefully it's as inspiring to you as it is to us, because there's some cool people in there. You know, Noble was just the first, more to come. So with that, we want to thank you for watching the video, and we wish you the best weekend ever.
Take care, everybody.
The bestest.
See you next one.
Best.